the AFC North, I guess we had to start it off with the division-winning Pittsburgh Steelers, who were probably the worst 11-0 team we probably ever saw. Then, as we were all proven right, they fell off on their feet at the end of the season, leading to a blowout loss to the Cleveland Browns.
How did they get to 11-0? Really?
That's
the team that probably benefited the best from playing the NFC.
Definitely about that. Although their streak was ended by the Washington Football Team,
and that's when it was over.
But if you remember Bud Dupree, they lost Bud Dupree and Devin White, Devin Bush at the beginning of the season. That definitely hurt their front seven. That was playing at an unbelievably high level.
When they had those guys playing, they were undoubtedly the best front seven in the league, and that's what the league like Tampa Bay and LAR.
And people forget, for the first 8 to 10 games, Ben Roethlisberger wasn't that bad.
I don't know. I think their offense was masked, and people were so shocked of the short passing game that they were approach they were going with that I don't think many people saw it. And when people started sitting on it,
it looked like Chase Claypool. But the problem is, as you see with these 38-plus-year-old quarterbacks, when December and January rolls around, the arm starts to die down.
Yeah.
And that could definitely lead to teams looking a lot better at the beginning than they do at the end, and Pittsburgh was one of those teams. Even with Pittsburgh cutting Ben Roethlisberger, not cutting, but restructuring Ben Roethlisberger and letting guys walk, they're still only at about $5 million in cap space, and that's probably where they're going to be capped out at this point. They really don't have a ton of contracts to extend their restructure. They should extend T.J. Watt, but it doesn't look like that's going to get done this offseason, so I'm going to go based off of what they're sitting at right now. I don't really expect Pittsburgh to be gigantic players in free agency. But one guy that they can look at for cheap that can help improve the interior of that O-line is Richie Incognito. We know Pittsburgh is good at handling malcontents in their locker room. And we know Richie Incognito has a history of that. He's also 37. And this would be a cheap one-year stopgap kind of pick to help keep Ben Roethlisberger upright for the one last year he'll be around. Because Pittsburgh's clearly going to try to win a Super Bowl right now.
They gotta be all in.
They gotta be all in.
It's a shame that they lost 2 players to devastating injuries because to lose a linebacker that did so much for them and a pass rusher, I just don't know how they could get that defense to be clicking on the carry you to the Super Bowl mode.
Exactly. Next up, I went with the safety position. They definitely have a need back there with somebody to pair with Minkah Fitzpatrick, because they after the pass rush died down, that's when you saw the big plays really started being given up in Pittsburgh. So I went with Xavier Woods, actually, from the Dallas Cowboys, because as far as like the tier 2, tier 3 kind of free agents, Xavier Woods has a lot of starting experience. He's shown the ability to be a good coverage guy at either in the free or coming down and playing in the nickel.
Definitely.
Pittsburgh also has a history of liking former Dallas Cowboys to come in and play for them, so I thought that would be a good fit right there. Last, they need to address the backup quarterback position, because you can't really rely on Ben to be healthy or himself for 16 games. So having a guy who can either pinch hit for them,
what about
quote unquote,
Mr. Whack-a-Mole and
I think it's really shown that I think Mason Rudolph is not the guy.
And Dwayne Haskins.
And yeah, they brought in Dwayne Haskins, but if Pittsburgh's going to try to win a Super Bowl, if you're starting any games with Dwayne Haskins, I don't think you're winning going forward. So I like them going and getting Andy Dalton.
Okay.
Andy Dalton's familiar with the AFC North, obviously. Played there for a long time in Cincinnati. I think he'd be a good backup quarterback in case Ben does go down, so it wouldn't be that much of a cliff drop, especially with the weapons that they already have in Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, although they're probably going to have to let Juju Smith-Schuster walk. Pittsburgh's the best team in the NFL at drafted wide receiver, so we know they'll be able to fill the position properly. Yeah, that's what I got on Pittsburgh.
I mean, so I guess then we're moving on. We'll go to Cleveland. Cleveland, man, they got a good situation going for them right now. But I'll tell you one thing: they've got a Baker Mayfield extension, Nick Chubb extension.
Do you extend Nick Chubb? You got Kareem Hunt already done.
And I mean, they kind of have to. He's their bell cow. They're gonna have to. Nick Chubb, and they also got Denzel Ward coming up. They got to pay these guys now, so that's the scary thing because they haven't won yet. Mm-hmm. And I don't stand by if your quarterback hasn't won on his rookie deal, it's really hard for me to think it's okay to pay him and think you're going to be a winning team after.
So you think it's a better idea to pay two running backs than to extend your quarterback?
Well, they've got to do
bad asset
both.
management.
Their problem is they've got to do both.
Mhm.
They've got to keep Chubb and Baker and Ward. They've got to keep them both. They've already paid Myles Garrett. I mean, I don't really think they could, after cutting Richardson, the defensive tackle, to save a couple $10 million this year. I really don't think they could do anything except bring in like they could go after a Will Fuller or a John Brown to finish out their receiving corps because they're gonna lose the kid, Higgins kids. I actually like him. I wonder if they could get him back too. But if they went and got a nice number 2 and maybe a KJ Wright or a Richard Sherman to help shore up the defense with a veteran, that's really all they can do. But it's now or never for them. Whoever they sign, whatever last couple sparing part pieces that they add this year, that's really all they can. They better be the pieces because it's now or never for this team if they're actually going to turn this around to become a Super Bowl championship caliber team.
Is Cleveland division favorite now and into next season?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've got them at 2.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Baltimore ahead of them. I think Baltimore finished ahead of them this year, or was Cleveland at 2?
I think Cleveland finished 2, but I can't be entirely sure.
I thought one was 11-5, and one was.
I think Baltimore swept them, so Baltimore finished second. Baltimore finished 2. That makes sense.
Pittsburgh was the 1 seed, and they played Cleveland.
No, Pittsburgh wasn't 1.
They were the 2 seed.
They were 3.
They were 3.
Buffalo finished 2.
And they played Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
No, they played
Buffalo
Baltimore.
played Indianapolis in the 2-7.
Okay, so who did
Pittsburgh and Cleveland were the 3-6. Indianapolis and Tennessee was the 4-5. Tennessee and Baltimore was 4-5.
Okay, so Baltimore was finished better in a higher standing than Cleveland.
Yes, it did.
So yeah, I'll stick with Baltimore. But Cleveland's close. They're both pretty close. I don't think either are real. I think they're both in tier 2 in the AFC, and neither are championship caliber yet.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not to say if Baker makes another jump, or if Denzel Ward stayed healthy and became Jalen Ramsey impactful like, they could be a championship caliber team. But yeah, they're almost there. They're close.
They got a shot. I think it really all depends on how good Baker Mayfield actually is.
And how good Stefanski really is. I thought he had a good year, but he's a run-first coach, and he had a team that was built to run first. So
yeah, and that's not going to change next year. So
yeah, so we'll see. We'll continue.
But next, I guess next we can talk about Baltimore, and we've already seen Baltimore has been a team that really only loses to Kansas City. That's basically what Baltimore has to deal with year after year after year. But that's not changing this year. They're still Kansas City's still around. Baltimore still
They
looking up at them.
They struggled with Pittsburgh even with just a healthy Ben too last year.
That's a good fact as well. So Baltimore is one of those teams where they could be playing in the Super Bowl next year. They can miss the playoffs. We don't really know exactly what's going on.
I don't think if they can miss the playoffs.
They absolutely. But the AFC is tough this year.
But luckily they extended the playoff field to another team, and I feel like as long as they're not getting pushed out by somebody in their own division, like if Cincinnati made a jump and now it's four deep in there and it's a dogfight, then they could get finessed out. But I mean, yeah, technically you can because Miami did have 10 wins, but yeah.
Like Baltimore, they're probably a playoff team, but I don't think it's a lock as other people may make it out to be as of right now. Baltimore's got about $20 billion in cap space. They've already, and that's after already signing Kevin Zeitler earlier today.
They needed that.
So that takes away one of their big needs, which was improve the interior of the offensive line after Marshall retired. He should be getting Stanley back this year, so that should be. And Orlando Brown's still around, so that should be showing him up at tackle. Although they have an Orlando Brown decision to make because he said he's not going back to the right side. And you got Ryan Stanley coming back, and you paid him a boatload of money to go play that spot. So
you think you can get him to go play on the right side?
I mean, if Stanley wants to, he already got paid. So maybe if he's okay with that, they should do it. But it's a transition going from left to right. Like that's not something that you can just do.
Yeah, he's always been a left.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Did he play right at Notre Dame? Did he play any right at Notre Dame? He was there for a long time with the Martins. He was there with the Martins and the other tackles that have come through that program. So he might have
played the right side when he was there.
So yeah.
So Baltimore. All right. So my first target for Baltimore was Curtis Samuel, the wide receiver from Carolina, who's another guy who's been a repeat. name on these lists. Baltimore is a team who Lamar Jackson's strength isn't throwing the ball deep into the outside. It's throwing it short and intermediate to the middle, giving guys a chance to make plays after the catch. Curtis Samuel is one of those guys who could definitely do that for them. He probably wouldn't come too expensive since Baltimore is limited with their cap space because they do have that Lamar Jackson extension coming up. They're already letting guys out the door to do that. So, but bringing in another offensive weapon for Baltimore that could be a guy who fits Lamar Jackson's strengths a little bit better, I think would be a good decision for Baltimore. Next one Baltimore needs is that actually edge has definitely become more of a need now that they've let Judon out the door. But another a player I like for Baltimore that could come for cheap, low risk, high upside kind of signing is Malik Hooker from Indianapolis. Yeah, Malik Hooker, who looked like the next coming of Ed Reed during the pre-draft process. People loved his range. People loved his ability to make plays on the ball, but injuries and maybe poor scheme fit in Indianapolis has caused that maybe not to work out as well. But going to Baltimore in a new situation where they got a bunch of veteran guys in that secondary who can show him the way and he can just go be himself instead of having to go do other guys' jobs along with his own, I think that'd be a really, really good fit for Baltimore who could probably turn him into a high-quality starter at the position.
I really like that Curtis Samuel fit there because he fits in those versatile, do a lot of different things offense. So if he went to like a Shanahan offense or that Baltimore offense,
he could be back there running the triple option with him, line him up in the slot, outside. They could do a bunch of things with Curtis Samuel. He'd fit right in.
That's dangerous. So I guess we're going on to Cincinnati now.
Cincinnati.
So for Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati's in a better place than people know. I mean, if they cut Atkins, Hart, and Gio Bernard, save up another 15 to 20-ish million.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that put them in good cap space, over $55 million for sure.
They have a quarterback on a rookie deal. They're already letting William Jackson and Carl Lawson hit free agency. So, yeah, Cincinnati's definitely going to have plenty of opportunity to add players.
So, with Bates at mind, with a Jesse Bates extension in mind,
mm-hmm.
I would take that money, and if I was Cincinnati, I've got them going to get their guys. They've got to overpay for them, but I've got them giving Carl Lawson a 5-year, $100 million extension.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
And I've got them giving William Jackson a 4-year, $60 million extension. And I've got them keeping their pass rusher in their corner. And it's not the best scenario of just being able to bring back your guys.
Mm-hmm. But it makes sense. Those are foundational defensive pieces.
You got to keep a pass rusher in the corner that have been developed into good players for you, in my opinion. So I just got them doing that. I also had him showing interest in Jonnu Smith, but we found out today that that he's going to New England. But I thought that'd be a good fit, so I guess they could look into Hunter Henry. But I've got that at $11 million per. I don't know. Hunter Henry might want more.
I think Jonnu got 13.
So yeah, New England might have buffered up that market, so Hunter Henry might be able to thank Giannou for his sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
But other than tight end, I could see him going after a Corey Lindsey or Joe Tooney.
We definitely need help with that offensive line.
But yeah, definitely that's it. So I guess the final question is, do we both have Cincinnati in the basement over here in the NFC North currently?
Pittsburgh has a chance to be down there depending on what Ben Roethlisberger looks like. But yeah, I think Cincinnati's the favorite to be 4.
Okay, so you've got Pittsburgh at your 3 at highest.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's 3.
I think Pittsburgh's 3. I have to agree. Pittsburgh's my 3. I've got Cincinnati in the cellar. But like you said, just watch out. Pittsburgh could easily a bad injury here or there, and they could creep their way into finding a way to pick their next quarterback high in the draft next year, which might be actually what they should have went.
Blessing in disguise.
What they should have did instead of trading for Minka a couple years back. And so you've got Cleveland as your 1.
No, I'm gonna go with Baltimore. Even though I floated the Cleveland question out there just to see what you thought about them possibly for next year, but you just trust Baltimore more.
Yeah.
I think Lamar Jackson is probably still a better overall player than Baker Mayfield.
I think that's really close, actually.
I definitely trust what's his name, Harbaugh, more than I trust Stefanski at this point, but he could prove me wrong. Baltimore still got a lot of talent in that defense and a scheme that's built for Lamar Jackson to succeed in. So I think they should be the favorite for right now.
Baltimore's got the culture in place already that's 10 years deep, so it's easier to trust them. But I've got it as a 1A, 1B type of. Cleveland and Baltimore could easily both finish 10-6, 11-5 next year, and it comes down to tiebreaker who goes to the division, who gets to be the division winner, and who has to be the wild card. But both will probably be playoff teams, barring any bad injuries. But I guess that's it for the AFC North.